Hi, everyone. So today we have with us Terri Wade. She is an author, a speaker, a coach, an entrepreneur. She's joining us today to talk about her journey going through entrepreneurship and some mindset shifts that she's experienced as she's continuing to grow in her journey. So thank you for joining us, Terri.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm really excited to, just share whatever I can to bring value and just hang out with you for this next hour.
Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. So right now, thanks for the introduction. Yeah. I'm a two-time best-selling author. I just came out with this new book, A to Z Happy, which I'm really excited about. My mission, I really just want to help, bring joy and light and love to the world because when I was younger, I was just a depressed child. I grew up happy, but then circumstances, I was bullied a lot, kind of a Cinderella story. So I just shut down. I just, yeah, totally dimmed my light. I couldn't find the light in me anymore. I became suicidal at 8. I had a plan. I was walking down the hallway at my dad's house, and out of the corner of my eye, I could see him closing one of his drawers, and it had a gun in it. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, this could be my way of like not being such a problem to everyone because I thought I was a problem to everyone. And then also, I just didn't want to deal with. If I was like, this is life, then I don't want to live it. So I created this plan, and then I ended up telling a friend. I had one friend at the time, and she told her dad. And anyways, I ended up going to therapy. And then in therapy, I felt seen, I felt heard. And then I really started my personal development journey. Like, I wouldn't say at 8 years old, but it did start. My mom, when she got out of rehab, because at the time she was at rehab, she would say, fake it till you make it. So I was like, I mean, now, like I know how powerful words are, so I don't like the word fake so much, but at the time it really helped because I would just smile, because at the time I was just shut down and then my body language, everything was, just not wanting to be here. And so as I, just came out of that deep, dark, depression, I just started smiling, and then people would smile back at me. And then I just got certified in positive psychology a couple of years ago, so I know that smiling releases endorphins in your brain, so you'll automatically become, scientifically in your body happier because of the dopamine that's being produced. But then, then there's the social aspect. You smile at someone, and then they smile back at you, and so then it's a lot of like ripple effect of positive energy. So yeah, but from there to now, so now, I do speaking, just around the country, virtually, all around the world. I have, yeah, my books, and then I do coaching and masterminds, and soon I'll be doing retreats. So yeah, it's been a journey, but yeah, that's kind of where I started. And then it was a lot of accepting less than I deserve, less than what I wanted, just getting out of, feeling like I don't want to be here, I'm a problem to people, to, really owning my power, owning my greatness, stepping into my mission and my purpose in the world. So, yeah, just the quick and the
Wow.
long. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that, by the way.
Oh yeah. Well, I know I'm not alone. At first it was hard to share because I felt like I don't want to feel like my dad's not a good dad, or, like he was always doing the best he could. There's different love languages too. His was definitely, just like gifts were a big one for him, acts of service. So yeah, he was a good dad, but everyone has their different experiences. And so yeah, I've done the work where I can just stand in that vulnerability and still know that I'm strong and powerful.
So you don't have to answer this part, but
Okay.
out of curiosity, were you able to find healing with your dad and have like some discussions with him about this?
Yeah, I did talk to him. At first, he didn't want to open up. Like before I even wrote the book, 'cause I knew the book was coming out, and so I talked to him about like the times when we did have the stepsisters and how he felt and what he thought about it. And he didn't want to talk about that time because he was going through it because he had loved the mom, but then she was off doing her own thing, and so it was a hard time for him in that situation. Being so in love, and then just all the things that came with the divorce, and so it was really hard for him. So he didn't really want to talk about it. And so it was kind of like, bringing the book out. We talked about it, and, I told him, how I felt during that time. And he didn't realize, he was just kind of busy working. He just thought like, oh, I'm just going to give her the best life possible by working all the time. And so it was more of the things that was big for him. because when he was younger, he didn't have all those things. So, it's just like he's doing the best he can with what he knows. And so we were able to talk about it. And he's saying that of course he just wanted the best for me, and he didn't realize. And I think he realized because I went to therapy back then. He had put me in therapy, so he knew I was going through it. So we kind of had our time to talk about it when I was younger. Like we did therapy sessions with all of us. But I don't really remember that much when I was 8, like what we talked about. But bringing it back now, yeah, he just says he's like so proud of me, and so that's really good. That feels good.
So your relationship is in a good place now.
Yeah, it's in a really good place. Yeah, he's an awesome, awesome man. So I feel really blessed about that. But yeah, we're doing good. And just me being so the Lisa Nichols. I was going to talk about this carefrontation. So really doing it from a place of caring. Not like you're confronting people on like, oh, why did you do this to me? But a place from caring. So yeah, I've done a lot of personal development, and that was one of the things going to talk to him about. Like I know you're doing the best you can with what you have, and this is how I felt during that time. And so, yeah, we've just come to a really beautiful place, and I've been able to really come to a place where I can respond instead of reacting. So I don't, like give into the triggers that maybe I would have before. So, yeah, it's been a journey, but a really blessed one, because I feel like when we heal, then we can promote that healing, and when we are the light, we're like lighting other people up as well.
All right. So I'm curious because I mean, I follow you on Instagram and I saw one of your posts. Well, you were, I think, reposting from a friend, and she mentioned that, when you were younger, you were more reserved. So I was wondering, what led you to entrepreneurship, and how did you go from that to being a coach, an author, a speaker, an entrepreneur? Because
Yeah, no, I know exactly the poster. Yeah, it was one of my really good friends from high school. She was saying like this was like quiet. I didn't want to talk. I never wanted to present in class. But what happened is, so I think this is a lot of people. They have so I have this story when I was deep down, dark, depressed, and we had talked about how you had gone through your different moments, and then once you've overcome that, it's like you almost like have this calling to want to help other people go through it. And so, I know what it feels like to be alone or feel alone. I know we're never alone, but how to feel alone, feel like I didn't matter and my voice didn't matter. And I didn't know how to get out of that mindset of, I don't know, victimhood, I would say. Because yeah, in my first book, it was a co-authored book with people from this dynamic women's retreat that I went to, some amazing people. But I'm on the first chapter, and it says from victimhood to empowered dynamic women. And I was living more in a victim, like life was happening to me. And now I really realize like, no, life is happening for me. And I get to choose. Like I felt like I didn't understand how powerful I was in the choice. Like I get to choose how I want to think about how life is happening. I get to choose on what I get to do. Like we have so much more power than we realize. A lot of times we'll let life happen to us. But no, like I'm the director, I'm the producer, and of course, I'm very spiritual. So, like I have God on my side all the time. And so I also learned about metaphysics. And so with metaphysics, if there's like, you probably know quantum, there's just like the quantum realm. Basically that's where like everything's evenly present at all times, and so it's kind of like you can get onto a new timeline. So I dove deep into metaphysics, mostly with the Course in Miracles, but also just through studying just a lot of quantum physics. Like Einstein, he talks about past, present, and future being now. And so I just did a lot of study, and I've just come to a point where I've learned so much. I've been able to just bring forth so much stuff in the world, but not even stuff in the world that's so important to me. And once you get this stuff, you realize this stuff's not more important than the love in your heart, than the peace of mind, and the belonging, and family and friends. So I've come to a really good place, and I want to share with other people who are not there yet. And so that's kind of what was the calling on my life. And growing the confidence has just been doing it scared. I mean, the first time you put yourself out there, it's not, you're not like,
yeah.
oh, I'm gonna kill it, right? But it's just you do it, and you're like, wow, I did it. And it was that, and it's always like after you come out of something you were scared of, you're like, oh, it wasn't even that bad. Like the fear is like false evidence appearing real. So you're making this big thing out of something that appears real, but it's not even real. It's just a story in our head. So once you do it, then you realize, oh, it's not so bad. And then you just like get better and better as you go and keep growing.
hmm So, how would you describe your purpose, like right now, in the best way that you can?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say my purpose is to really, I want to like wake people up to the truth of who they are and understanding that they have that power within them. They have the power to choose joy. They have the power to, choose peace of mind. They, yeah, like I just want to show people that like they can take control of their life and be happy. Like I really want to spread joy like to the world. kind of like Jesus, right? Joy to the world. But yeah, and I want to bring light. I feel like there's so much darkness in the world, and I want to bring light to the darkness and really just wake people up to, really their connection. So the A to Z happy was really on a mind level of being happy and a worldly perspective of being happy. And then, so as I was doing this, I also got into A Course in Miracles, and that's when I started really learning more about spirituality and feeling not alone. I feel like when I was depressed at that young state, I feel like I was alone. My dad was working all the time. My mom was in rehab. I was just getting bullied by, my stepsisters. So I just felt alone. And then now knowing I'm not alone, like that's the most beautiful thing. And that's what really brings, joy, for me. And that's the eternal happiness. So it's not like oh, I get my Mercedes and I'm happy, because then it just becomes, it's just all like the law of relativity. It just becomes standard and new, and it's not as exciting as it once was. So it's like to have that eternal happiness, it's like for me is finding, that connection to spirit. For me, there's just that one creator, that one, like whatever path, like Course in Miracles says all paths are necessary, but having that relationship with, the creator that's, guiding you and that's loving you unconditionally no matter what, like that's the eternal happiness. So then I started talking about that in the book. So it does talk about like mind, body, and spiritual happiness. So that's what I would say is my mission, is to bring that truth and that understanding, that awareness to people.
So we talked a bit about what led you to entrepreneurship. So can you tell us a bit more about what led you to writing your first book?
Yeah, and this is what's so important about environment. And so in the A to Z Happy, it talks about environment. That's the E. Once you're in the environment, it's kind of like that law of relativity. It's like, everyone's doing it. It's just like that's what we do. That's how we act. That's how we are. And so it's just being in the environment. So the first book, it's called Becoming Dynamic, and it's 20 authors. We went to Lisa Nichols' retreat. So Lisa Nichols wrote the foreword to the book. It was basically me just saying, what I wanted. So I had mentioned there, one of the ladies, she was a publisher. So that's why being in that environment. So she had a publishing company. And so, we're all talking about our stories and different things. And she's like, you should write a book. And I was like, yeah, I thought about it. And then she was, had this idea. So, she met great people. She was a publisher. And then she talked to Lisa and she was like, I think we could write a book about this retreat, or, like there's so many great stories and we got so much wisdom from this event. And then she was like, well, you're the, publisher, like let's do it, let's make it happen. So then she just asked some of us if we'd want to, give our story in the book. And so that's how the first book came about. So that one became, yeah, number one international best-selling, book on Amazon. So that was really exciting.
So we started with you when you were younger, being more reserved, right? And how you kind of just kept going despite, whatever you were feeling inside. I'm curious, what were your thoughts going in? And like basically, what were your main challenges when you started your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I would say some of the big challenges getting started was really having the clarity on like what exactly it is that I want to do, because I had so many different ideas. So I started off. I was a marketing consultant when I first started. So I just would help businesses that were doing like a lot of like yellow pages, or they weren't being seen. I started helping them. But the thing is, that's why you just gotta get in action. As you get in action, you get the clarity. But yeah, getting clarity. So I did marketing consulting, but I had so many different like people from all different areas. I had plastic surgeons, I had trade logistics, I had gym owners, coaches. So I just had so many different people, and then I was doing their marketing, and so it was like a lot of learning, because I had to learn about the plastics, surgeon industry and all of the lingo there. And so then I started just evolving, and then I ended up doing the business coaching instead of being in there doing all the work. I was like, oh, let me just give you the strategies. And so then I started doing the strategies on business coaching, and I actually became a professor as well. And I started teaching business classes. And so then I was coaching and doing classes. And so a lot of them had really great ideas, but then they weren't executing. And then I wasn't growing as fast as I wanted to as well. So then I started diving into mindset. And then I started teaching more around the mindset. So it just started evolving. And so now I really help. A lot of them are like executives executives and entrepreneurs that are, not feeling happy or like losing, not feeling at peace. And so it's kind of, still like the same mission where I'm helping people change their mind. But yeah, so the hardest part was really getting clarity, and you get clarity through action. So, and you can pivot and change. I mean, you don't want to, change too fast and do everything, because they say the jack of all trades is the master of none. So you definitely want to master your craft. And so I would say, yeah, clarity was probably the hardest thing at first. And then just the sales, like getting over the fear of like, oh, I got to sell somebody something. But then what happened is I just didn't make it about me. And so I'm so one of my favorite things that I've done is the abundance mastermind retreats. And so I made it all about the other person and like how their life is going to change. And then it wasn't like something like they have to buy into me. Like, no, they're investing in themselves. And so, yeah, it was just a mindset shift there. But that was probably another thing that was hard, and then overcoming that imposter, because it's like, there's like Oprah and Tony Robbins and all these amazing people, that people could learn from. But then I'm like, oh, like they're going to want to learn from me. And do I know enough? And, just kind of, yeah, I guess that's battling even some of that, the feelings that I had when I was younger of like the self-doubt, the lack of self-worth and self-belief. And so, sometimes those little stories will try to pop their head up again. And so then, a lot of just affirmation work. It's like every day you go to the gym, or not, yeah, I don't know if you go to the gym every day, but if you want to like have a healthy body, you're going, not every day, but consistently. So that mindset work is consistently. You're constantly having to say like, I got this, I can do this. And when you're in an environment, like us, like masterminding and be holding each other accountable, like then it's easier to do that. So if you're all by yourself trying to do it, so I would say I definitely get a community, just take action, and that'll give you clarity. And then just keep talking to yourself. Like I was on this call the other day, and the speaker was like, I'm a big deal. Like she tells herself all the time, she looks in the mirror, like I'm a big deal. Like what I have is valuable. So just continuously, telling yourself that on a continuous basis, like speaking yourself up and having that environment. So those are all the things I would say for aspiring entrepreneurs out there.
So I was wondering, because one of my questions was basically to grasp the transition from your old mindset to your current mindset. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, so the mindset shift. Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, it's a huge shift, especially because been an employee most of my life, and I still actually have a job that I work to along with the business. But the employee mindset and the entrepreneur mindset is so different, because employees, you're getting paid for your hour and paid for your time, but as an entrepreneur you're really getting paid for your ideas. And so it's a whole different mindset, and it's like you don't want to be the one that's doing all the work in your business. It's like, you want to delegate, so you have an assistant that's doing things. It's like, what's the most valuable thing I can do that only I can do? And then, delegating anything else that somebody else can do, at least 80% or better than you, then you're not in your business, you're working on your business. So it's a big shift to get into mindset wise. And then just like personal, like you have to be the person that can do it. So it's like, like otherwise you're not going to be able to hold the success. So say like you'll get success once, but then you'll sabotage, or you won't be able to continuously have it. So building up like who I am, building up my discipline muscle, building up my taking action muscle, building up the feeling the fear and doing it anyways. I study every single day. I'm always listening to somebody in the background of what I'm doing. Not all the time. I mean, there's the quiet time and getting in touch with spirit, and letting that inner power come up and speak to and through you for ideas, inspiration, like creative endeavors. But I feel like I'm always listening to somebody that's really pumping me up and realizing like anything's possible. So yeah, it's just the consistency and developing as you go, like the discipline, the willingness, the visualization. So I'm big on creating a self-image of who you want to be, and a vision of where you want to go, and then it'll start like you'll start becoming the person, and you'll start doing the actions. You'll start making the calls, or you'll start like reaching out to you mentioned, hey, I'm doing this interview series, and would anyone be interested? And then I'm like, yeah, like I'm the person that wants exposure, I'm the person that wants to bring this message out to the world, and so I want to get on as many platforms as I can. But it's me suppressing the subconscious mind that I have a mission and I'm worth it, and the people need to hear it. So yeah, that's like the mindset shift, I guess, from going from back then to now. What I did is a lot of this visualization, writing my goals down every day. That's really big, because you need to consistently see it. And then that's what will just, it'll just become real. Like if you hear a lie long enough, they say it'll become truth. But so it's not a lie, because we are powerful and we are able to do anything. But, we've been conditioned a lot of times that I don't know, like you'll just hear like, getting money is greedy or these little things that you'll hear that are really not serving us. And so we have to like combat those old beliefs systems with like new, more powerful beliefs.
Right. I think about it as combing it out, just filtering, opinions, other people's opinions, which is great at times, but you can't accept everything as a truth. So, right, you have to watch out for their intentions, their mindset going in. Are they operating out of a place of love? And then you can, work with that.
Yeah,
Uh,
before we move on, I want to hear what your so before you started the business and t-shirts and this interview series, like what was your mindset shift to finally say like I'm, making the website, I'm designing the shirts, I'm putting it out there, I'm going to make offers, I'm going to, be visible. What was your mindset shift?
so for me, like my childhood was pretty similar in some ways. Actually, our journeys, we both want to, use our light for the good of the world. But when I was younger, like you, I didn't smile much. There was honestly a lot going on in my personal life that, just in that kind of environment, it was really difficult to smile. For me, I was an only child. So I really only played with, other kids my age, say if like they were, you know, where we were at our place or at school. Other than that, like my life was just, pretty much just me. I always went back to artwork because, when you're an only child, you have to have this imagination kind of, right?
Yeah.
So that was a skill that was naturally gifted to me. And I really like I sensed, growing up, hey, I want to work at a business, though for someone or for myself was something I was like, I wasn't sure. Just because I grew up around self-employed people. So like I saw firsthand, which is why like I guess I'm kind of unfazed by like the realities of it now that I'm in it. One key moment was when I was in middle school. I did graffiti art, not legally, just just to clarify. But it got so popular that one of my classmates, I don't know if he paid me or not, but he didn't say what it was for. He just said, "Can you draw the school's initials?" So I drew it for him. And I show up to school like, a week or a few days later. I don't remember. This was 20 years ago. I show up and then like they're holding a competition. They're like, whoever gets the first place is going to have their artwork featured on the back of the school's t-shirts. And I was like,
Wow.
wait, hold up. The first one is mine.
No way, took yours. Wow.
Yeah, so like I have weird scenarios like that. But I was like, wait, that looks familiar. And then I found out it was my artwork. And I showed up to my first period class, I think it was chemistry or something. And like I said, it was popular. So the instructor, she's like, I know who the real artist is. So she sent me to the vice principal. And like I was still underage, right? I was just a kid. I didn't know anything about like intellectual property, your rights or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's why I started with an LLC off the bat when I first started this business. I was like, I'm not playing that game no more. I was like, like I had a hunch that, this like back then I was like, okay, I'm a kid, but I know I have the right over my own artwork. Okay.
Yeah, like that is mine. Like you did not make that.
But like I mean like to be clear, like we I just got like two t-shirts, but they were selling. They were hot, okay? So I think for me I had an inkling that, hey, I've done this before. Honestly, a few years ago, I was just in a really interesting place in my life where I had to shift my mindset. Like that near death experience, like I hadn't made these connections in our community, stuff like that. And then I was like, okay, well, my health has already gotten to this point. Like I was in my late 20s. So like when the time came, Like, I was like, okay, I need to get out of this depression, this anxiety, because honestly, at that time, I wasn't operating out of a place of love. My mindset was
Mm,
vastly different. So I was like, okay, something's got to change because everyone else sees my potential, but I at that time didn't. And like, I was struggling in other areas of my life too. I was like, okay, so the first thing I can focus on right now has to be changing my mindset to overcome this anxiety and depression. I'm only like in my 20s at this point. Once I figure out how to overcome this anxiety and depression, like there's only one way. It's not gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna focus on this other area of my life, possibly get distracted and then address it later. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna address it right now.
yeah,
Um,
that's great.
and yeah, I think that near-death experience really shifted it to the point where, well, before the last several months at least, it was like, okay, I'm gonna open this business if this is the last thing I do. That was my mindset. Really
Mm.
dangerous. I was like, I am gonna do this. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I've had this feeling deep down that no matter what happens moving forward, I will be okay. So that was my mindset shift. A
Mm.
long story.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And that's the thing, like, that's how people really can relate to us is by our stories. And I definitely relate to that. It's like, yeah, having that near-death experience sounded like that was a huge, like, shift. Like, okay, wake up. Like, you don't, if you were gonna die, do you want to die like depressed and down and, because we don't know when we're gonna die. And so, I mean, that's, more of a morbid way of looking at it, but that's the only thing that's guaranteed to us in life is we're going to die one day, and it's like we don't know when our time is. So, with the time we have, like, how do you want to be living it? So, that'll be a big reason to change. And it made me remember. So, one of the big reasons that I started getting into this personal development journey too is I had a boyfriend in high school who got murdered. And so once he was murdered, I was like, wow, life is so short and you just never know when your time's going to go. Then that's when I was like, okay, like I want to make the most out of life. Like, I don't know how much, time I have here. Like we never know. So that's when then I went off to college and, just tried to really, make something of myself. And that's when I really started to study too, like, just getting curious more, even more curious about life. I've always been pretty curious about life, but like more curious, like why are we here? What's our purpose? What's our mission? How do we make the most of this life while we're here?
Okay, thank you so much for sharing about what happened to your ex-boyfriend. That that's really hard to hear.
Yeah, he was so young, but just with his environment and where he was living, he didn't think he was 23 at the time, so he didn't even think he was gonna live that long. And so, he was, yeah, it was kind of crazy. But yeah, life is short, you never know. And so it's like, how do you want to live knowing, today could be your last day. You really never know. So yeah, it was a good lesson to be learned. And, because I was living so much and not loving myself as I was younger, he was, my first love. And so getting loved so much by someone that's not family, just all my flaws, anything that I felt was, I was insecure about, he loved on it. And so it was really beautiful. Like, and then, another thing that happened with that experience, he also it got me into like a connection because I had felt, soon after I was in college when he passed, we were, it was the summer of like my first year of college at that point, and I was feeling so sad and down, and I was like, I mean, I wish I could just like, get a hug from you. And then I felt like this warm, like embrace and this feeling of like I'm not alone. So it was a beautiful like moment of spirituality because I think I had mentioned before my mom was just kind of peace, love, sunshine. So I just felt like the body kind of is here and goes to dust. I didn't really have like a purpose or beyond the body. So that was my first kind of like taste of I'm not alone and that this world isn't just like here and gone forever. Like it was more of that connecting to that eternal being spirit of love, really. So yeah, so that was another a beautiful thing that had come out of it. Try to look at the good. I try to find the good in everything because I do think there's good in everything. And so just being able to experience that beautiful love is amazing. And then also yeah, that experience of connecting with spirit after.
Right. So let me see if I'm grasping this correctly. That experience led you to God, basically?
It was definitely the start. It was definitely the start of it because so that was so I had that experience, and that's the kind of made me feel like, wow, there's something out there that's bigger than just these bodies that go to dust. So that was kind of my first like little taste of it. But really, when I started getting into first, I ended up going to church. I don't really go to church often now. I feel like the relationship's just in my heart, and you don't need to be somewhere to do it. But it is nice to be around that environment if that feels good for you. But that was a beginning taste of it, and then towards the end of college. I was in just a domestically abusive relationship at that time, and what happened was, like, I was at a really low point, and so my friend, she had mentioned she was going to church, and so I was like, she had called. There's I think everything happened at the right time. There's always divine timing, and so she ended up calling me, and I was just like, man, I'm feeling really down. And then she's like, let me pick you up and we'll go to church. And I was like, okay, like I got nothing to lose. So I ended up going to church. And then in this church, it was this Dream Center church in Los Angeles. And I just felt the spirit. Like I really got moved. And so there in the beginning, we do worship in through song. And it was so beautiful. I was just feeling like one with the music, feeling the spirit of God. And then this little boy, he just hugged me, probably like 4 years old. He just hugged my leg, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is the sweetest thing I've ever seen!" Like, and so I just was like, just moved to tears. And then this lady, she's in the movie Soul Food. It was on BET. So after, this incident happened with my ex, then I turned the TV on and BET Soul Food was on. She plays this character Jordan, and I love it. And then it literally lifted my spirits, and I felt better. That was right before I went to church, and so I told her, or maybe it was the day before. I don't know. I think it was actually that day. But she was there because it's LA, so like, a lot of Hollywood people are there, and so I ended up seeing her, and I just turned around and I was like, I just want to thank you for what you do because like this happened, and then your show Soul Food really or the movie, it really lifted my spirits. And so she gave me a big hug, and she's like, don't ever let someone treat you like that. And it was just so sweet. And so I was like, this whole experience was just so divine. And so from there, that was back in 2010. Then we started going more and more. And then when I moved back home, I found a church here, and I got really on fire. I got baptized, and then I became an usher at church. I went to the young adults. I was just like super on fire for it. And then it's really the love. Like I know you want to spread love. It's really that love, and it's like the golden rule: treat people how you want to be treated. So yeah, that's kind of my path to spirituality, and kind of how that my ex had planted the seed with that, and then kind of full circle where I am today. That's a
Well,
lot.
before we go to our next question, I wanted to say that, after hearing that, it sounds like you asked for that hug and then God did give you that hug.
Yes, the comfort in the time of need. Ask and you shall receive. I really believe that, and I didn't even know really what I was asking for and how much of an impact it would make, and that would even something like that could even happen. But it's just yeah, so powerful. But you have to be open for it. And in that moment, I was so open. I was like, man, I just need comfort in this moment, and then I got it.
So one of my other questions was, is that how you would say you manage fear, doubt, uncertainty, or setbacks now?
Yeah, big time. That like having the spiritual foundation, you don't necessarily like, I mean, you could obviously there's a lot of successful people that probably don't have any kind of foundation, but knowing that like my life has a bigger purpose than just me, and knowing that I'm guided and supported, and so I'm big on just quieting my mind and listening to that intuition. And so I think for me that's Holy Spirit. So like that's I say just give me guidance and guide me on what the best next step is, like what should I do, what should I say, who should I talk to, and like letting myself be a vessel, so then it's not so much on me and so much pressure, because it's not me going at this alone. Like we were saying, like when you feel alone, it's a really hard like place to be, because then it's like what's the purpose. And so when like, oh, I have a mission bigger than me, and I'm allowing myself to be guided, so yeah, it definitely helps with that.
Okay, let's speak to the person who has this mindset that currently, whatever things are looking like right now, um, it's looking really difficult to get out of that, and loneliness, right? So, two of those mindsets. What kind of message would you like to share with them? Like, why is it important to find the right community? Why is it important to shift your mindset so that you can move forward and be more resilient?
Yeah, that's those are a lot. That's really good. So, well, the first thing I would do to become more resilient and just shift your mindset out of that depression and is starting to be grateful. Like having an attitude of gratitude goes so far. So, if you are feeling down, think of the things that you are grateful for because we have so much. Like you think about 100 years ago, people didn't have like running toilets and the whole system and like hundreds of years ago, I mean the lights, we just have so much to be grateful for. So if you just think about like I have a blanket, I have a bed, I have pillows, I have food in my fridge, I have running water, I have a flushing toilet. I mean, these are like things that we really take for granted, but it's like when you can just write down everything that you're grateful for. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for because like I had cut my hair and then I was like, oh man, like my hair is so short. I cut it too short. But then I'm like, man, I have hair. Some people don't even have hair, and their health has caused them to lose all their hair. So it's like really just being grateful for all the things that you do have. I think that's like a beautiful place to start. And so to build that muscle, like we're saying, going to the gym, having a gratitude journal, which I actually haven't been doing that last couple of days, and I can feel the difference. When you have the gratitude, and that's how you're focusing your day is around gratitude. Because whatever we focus on grows, and so you focus on things you're grateful for, you'll notice more to be grateful for. So I would just say start with gratitude and just feeling like there's purpose and there's meaning, and that life is good because there are good things to be grateful for. So I would say that's like a good way to start if you're like in that state of feeling down and depressed. And then if you're feeling alone, I would just say like that one time when I was feeling like I needed a hug, like just like get quiet and just really ask, like show me a better way. But just ask, to be seen. Ask, show me, and you'll get an answer, or like just fill my mind with the right message for today, and you'll get something. So I would just say like quiet your mind, because in the stillness there's it's like we have so much. There's like 90,000 thoughts going on in our heads. There's like so many ads being thrown at us. We're kind of it's like you can constantly find something on social media to compare yourself around, feel lack, and victim minded. So it's just, yeah, being quiet and shutting out the noise, shutting out the distraction, and just being like with yourself, because when you're just quiet and just you, it's like there's just peace of mind, and then that's a beautiful gift in itself. And so I would say, yeah, just getting quiet and doing those gratitude journals would be a great place to start.
Okay. So we discussed the importance of being part of a community and the importance of finding the right people. So what qualities are we looking for when, we're looking for people to build relationships with moving forward?
Yeah, that's good. Well, I would say go with people that are where you want to be and that have overcome the things you wanted to have overcome, and they have like the complete lifestyle. So, like, you don't want someone that's, maybe super successful, but then they never have time for their family. If having time for your family is, important value for you. So, finding someone that has similar values than you do, or, a community that has the similar values that you do, and that they've been there and they've done that before. Like, you don't want to always be the smartest person in the room. So, going around people that have, done the things that you want to do, and then that'll definitely cut your learning curve for whatever you're doing. And then also developing that belief system. So if everyone's writing books, which when I was at the retreat, it's like everyone had a book. So it's like, where's your book, Terry? You're like, okay, we'll get the book out. Like, like catch up, let's go. So,
Right.
it's really, yeah, people that are doing the things that you want to be doing, I would say. So they've been there, they've done that, and they have the values as well.
Okay. I really wanted to ask you, can you share a specific moment that tested your resilience as an entrepreneur and how did you overcome it?
Yeah. A moment that tested myself on for, yeah, the first time I did a big speech in front of people, I was in Washington, D.C., and I was, I mean, well, first of all, like, I had asked if I could change the order. Someone had mentioned that they were needing to speak earlier because they had a flight out, and so I was like, oh my gosh, if I could change the order, that would be great, just to give myself a little bit more peace of mind and like practice. So just speaking up for what you need. And so at the time, I was like, hey, can I do this? And they were like, yeah, no problem. So then I got to speak on the second day, which was great. But it really tested me because it was just like, like, can you do this? And like, that was the whole thing, like making it not about me, about other people and what I can bring to this speech that I'm there to do. So that was definitely something that tested me because, like, yeah, I was so shy before. You mentioned like my friend saying that I didn't like to speak at all or in front of people. So that was definitely that tested me. But I just was like, you're here for a reason. And the thing is, like, you'll be nudged. And so with this, you have that inner knowing in your heart, like that's that intuition. And so when this opportunity was presented to me, like I was nervous, but then I knew that this was for me. And so it's just getting in touch with that intuition and getting in touch. So I knew this was for me. So I was like, I'm here for a reason. I'm going to touch who I can touch at this at this conference. And so that was something that definitely like, pushed an edge for me. And I'm so glad I did it. And yeah, I was able to, partner with a lot of people that were there, and I got some clients from that event too, from speaking on stage. So that was definitely a big one for me, because one thing to be online like this, it's me and you, or, I'm talking to people virtually, but yeah, being there with all these eyeballs staring at you, professionals that are, even more accomplished than you are. So yeah, that was definitely a moment that I'll remember, not to
So like,
forget.
say you're on stage now speaking to hundreds of people, what's going through your mind now versus that old mindset?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be a little bit of like nervousness, which I think is good, because you always want to be growing. They say if you're not growing, then you're dying. So, and I'm passionate about it and it's exciting. So, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of nervousness, but I guess the difference is like knowing. Well, first of all, making sure I'm practiced beforehand. That's for sure. The difference in mindset. Let's see. I guess just, yeah, just knowing it's not about me, and that I practice, that I'm on a mission. Um, that's what I'd say.
How would you define resilience for yourself personally?
That's a good one. Resilience for me is just keeping like hope alive, and realizing when you get knocked down, you can always get back up. And the resilience is, that's a good question. Would you say how to define it for me? Yeah, how do I define it? Um, I would say like not giving up, so the only fail if you give up, right? But any like seemingly failure, you just learn from it. Just learn from it and get better. Give yourself rest. I think that's really important with resilience, so you're not just like pushing until the point of burnout, but you're like, understanding the times that you need to rest, you rest, and also doing all that you can do for the day, like making sure that you are, getting everything in. So there's like systems. They say successful people don't do different things necessarily, but they do things differently. And so, like writing the gratitude journal. So you're like constantly in this like state of mind of gratitude and creativity and openness. And so I would just say, yeah, like just practicing some of these success habits that are going to work, like with resilience. So making sure that you are having that positive, mindset, whether you're learning with YouTubes or books, having the gratitude, consistently putting yourself with your goal in mind, visualizing yourself, in that better place. And then also me with my connection. I'm never alone. I'm being guided. I'm unconditionally loved at all times. So that's how I stay resilient.
That's a good way to see it. All right. And I'm about to wrap up our interview, but I was curious. Let's look at this from a place of healing. What would you like to tell 8-year-old Terri?
Good question. 8-year-old Terry. So I would tell 8-year-old Terry that, you, first of all, like you're so loved. Like you're so loved and you're never alone. And everything's going to be okay. Everything's working out for your good. Any seemingly setback is just here to make you stronger, make you better, bring you closer to your faith. So I would just say that you're just so loved. Like I think I just didn't really love myself back then. But yeah, like you are perfect just as you are. You are worthy of having a beautiful life, and your voice matters, and your presence matters to the world.
All right. And then the last question I have is, can you tell us what would you like to tell us about your A to Z happy book?
Well, I'd say get it on Amazon.
Is that it?
No, that's not it. That's funny. No, but I would say, yeah. So it's called like making happiness a habit, and so I just know you are worthy and deserving of a beautiful, beautiful life, and just choose that for yourself. Like happiness is a choice. So you get to choose, how you see the world. You get to choose again. So if you haven't been seeing, the world as a beautiful, place where you get to learn and develop and love and share love, you get to choose. You are powerful. You're a powerful creator. You're a powerful, like, manifester, if you will, because and manifesting means just to bring forth. I think everything's all evenly present here and now, but we get to choose, how we think. How we think is how we're gonna feel. How we feel is gonna be what we vibrate, and how we act and how we attract, and that's so important. So you get to choose your thoughts, and you get to choose what you focus on. So choose happiness. That's what I'd say.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming today, Terry.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to be here.
Yeah, we'll talk again soon.